And away we go. It is another nightcap right here on BearcatJournal.com, brought to you, as always, by our good friends at Galactic Fried Chicken. Visit www.galacticfriedchicken.com. Download the app for Android, iPhone, everything Galactic. Get down to Dayton, Kentucky. Tell them to pump it up and save yourself 15%. Aaron, I had to pull the trigger tonight. I'm far away. I'm in a land far, far away. There weren't many options for dinner when I got here. I was going to go to Which, which used to be on campus at Clifton. I love Which. I got here. I got in the car at like 8:43, and it said closes in 17 minutes. And it was 0.3 of a mile away.
What'd you get?
I got there. Guess what?
Closed.
It was dark on dark inside that Which. So right across the street was Zaxby's. Had to get some Zaxby's.
Okay.
I had 3 chicken tenders. Guess what? I'm still hungry.
It's not Galactic. I will say that.
It was good. Like, I don't have any qualms with Zaxby's.
I'm telling you, man, you got to go with the Texas toast sandwich if you go to Zaxby's, though.
I just got number one, man.
The tenders are made to be put on the Texas toast. As opposed to because you still get 3 tenders, I think, on the Texas toast, as opposed to Galactic, where you can either get 3 tendies or you can get 2 tendies on Texas toast because they can't fit 3 tendies.
Could you imagine if they tried to put a third tendy on the Texas toast?
It wouldn't work.
Like a snake couldn't even dislodge its jaw enough.
It would have to be another layer of tendies. Nope. Wouldn't work.
But the point being, it made me appreciate Galactic Fried Chicken.
Fair enough.
Even more. I'm in Augusta, Georgia. Peach Jam started today, but I covered all the alumni game stuff last night. I got on the road this morning, got down here. I'll be over at the festivities for the Peach Jam tomorrow. So look for continuing coverage. I'll be here through Thursday and then back on the road Friday. I got a Kelsey's birthday party Saturday. Oof.
Saw that invite.
Yeah, it's gonna make for like I'm gonna have to rely on the team to have everything ready when I get back Friday night and Saturday.
I don't know that we're gonna be able to make it with the newborn, but
I didn't figure you could.
Appreciate the invite
but I would feel bad if like you were like you can't invite me. Like,
appreciate it.
You're invited if you can make it. I know you can't, but anybody else wants to come, just let me know.
All right.
I'm doing a taco bar.
I saw that.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I love doing taco bar. It's one of my favorite things to make.
Nice.
So
I had
I was driving all day.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Aaron, you got anything?
I got
something. You got a little something. What you got?
So I had this conversation, and at this point, I don't know what day I had this conversation. It could have been today. It could have been yesterday. It could have been earlier this week. Who knows? But I had this conversation with my best friend, and we were talking about the NIL. And I know that we talk a lot about the NIL, but I feel like this was a little bit different. We all heard Brett Yormark's conversation about how there should be some type of boundaries on the NIL or some type of, I don't know, like ceiling or something. He didn't use that word, but maybe boundaries was the word that he used in his press conference. But in any case, we got to talking about how do you set boundaries? And this goes back to the argument that I've made here many times that the NCAA could have gotten out in front of this, but instead they dug in their feet and they have now gotten themselves into a position where they have lost full control, and it is what it is. That said, you can't really put boundaries on. I mean, you could put boundaries on what the school can pay in NIL potentially, like just put a cap, if you will, on.
But you can't.
You could put a cap on what the actual university could spend per year. And it would be across the board.
None of this is coming from the university.
Correct. So which is why none of that makes any sense, right? You could cap what the universities could spend, but it won't matter because the collectives are what, and the boosters, if call it what it is, they're the ones funding the NILs. They would still be able to do whatever they would, and you still would lose a court battle, even if you tried to put a cap on what an athlete's name, image, and likeness is actually worth. How do you cap that? You can't cap that. You can't tell a kid you can only make this much money on who you are. So
right, and like I thought long ago, like you could set market value for things. The problem there being you're dealing with every market in the country, and every market has different values and like valuations to make it less, confusing with the word. But like, so this harkens back to what I've talked about a couple times since last week when I was on the road, and you're just sitting around watching games and you're having conversations. And I was talking to an assistant coach friend of mine, and he said, what's happening right now is like signing a pro basketball contract in Switzerland. Like, you've agreed to terms, but you don't know what you're going to actually be paid until you show up and they pay you. Like, it's not like what we think of in pro contracts here. And I've heard that from guys that have played overseas a lot. Like, that's why everybody's clamoring to get into the best leagues, because the best leagues, the money is guaranteed.
Right.
In the lesser leagues, the money is dependent on what comes into the front office. If they ain't got the money to pay you, you ain't getting paid. And what's happening
like
in
the
NIL,
Reds, like the Reds,
right? What's happening in NIL is there's a lot of promises being made, and it's so early. We don't know if those promises are going to be fulfilled, because recruiting is a dirty game.
It's always been a dirty game.
Yeah.
Like, even if that was the thing that when I was going back and forth with my best friend, that was the thing that we kind of came up with. It was, even if you capped something or said, like, you can only spend X amount of dollars, or an athlete is only worth a ceiling of this, you were still going to have dirty money, right? It would go back to the old ways where you can claim this money that you received, but here's the McDonald's bag with the cash in it again. Like, it would go back to the old ways where the kids would still get money. It would just be dirty money.
So, and a lot of this is what it means, is that schools are telling players, in order to get a commitment, because we've heard the NCAA is going to try to curtail just straight up inducing kids with a bag, and then they show up at your school.
Okay.
They're going to try. So, and you also have, some athletic departments that are saying, you're not going to induce kids with money. So what coaches are doing is they're telling the kids, when you show up, commit to us, and when you show up, you'll get X amount of dollars.
Sure.
No contract. And one, I think a lot of that is on the kid. Kids are allowed to have agents now. If a coach is going to say, you are going to get this much money when you get here, you put a contract in front of that coach and you say, sign here, so that we have an agreement that you have to pay me that money.
Well, you know what the problem is going to be with that, Chad, is you can't sign there because you're not supposed to be doing this.
But I don't think, like, they can't win in court if you just, like, if hypothetically you say, look, our guys all get $100,000. Like, every player on our roster gets $100,000 a year. So if you come here, then you're going to get $100,000 a year for being on our roster. Now, is that true or not? We don't know. Like, I know there are some places where the upperclassmen get more than the underclassmen in NIL money, because the upperclassmen have been around longer. They've earned that right.
Paid their dues.
Right. So there's so many, like, layers to this. But in specific, and the one that we're talking about, is promising kids money without any actual, like, anything in writing that you're, you have to pay them, because there's no union, there's nobody fighting for the players. There's nothing that's on their side. Everything is, heavily geared towards the schools just saying and doing whatever they want without recourse. There's a show on 24/7. It's actually really good. It's called Late Kick with Josh. And he touched on this a little bit today. I'm interested in getting your thoughts on it, Aaron. Let me pull it up here real quick.
But as it turns out, 17-year-olds representing themselves, or 17-year-old high school kids being represented by parents or guardians or folks who are ill-equipped to negotiate a contract, are prime candidates to be manipulated. How does this affect the sport as a whole? Because you got a problem with that. You want to know how it's going to get rectified, right? Well, I think the answer here could be pretty simple. The answer could be as simple as just sit back and watch. Because the quickest way to fracture a locker room is not a few kids having a bunch of money. The quickest way to fracture a locker room is a few kids being promised a bunch of money and then not getting that money.
He's right.
Sure. I mean, I think that's. I mean, let's call it what it is. I mean, I think he's spot on in the fact that if you're telling kids they're going to get money, you're paying some guys the money that you told them that you were going to pay them, but you're not paying everybody what you told them you were going to pay them. Why wouldn't you want to get the hell out of Dodge immediately? Like, no, coach, you promised me. You promised me I was going to get.
And you told my parents that we were going to get this money. Now my parents are counting on us having this money in our family.
You think that's not going to be loud if something like that happens? I think he's right. I think he's absolutely right. But it also depends on who's promising him that money. The student athlete. Is it the university? Is it the coach? Is it the NIL?
It would almost always be the recruit, like whatever coach is recruiting the kid. They're the ones that their lines on their job is on the line with the results, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's who it's always going to be.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm just kind of like you have me thinking now, and I'm just kind of in my head. I'm like, Anthony Brown. Let's say he was offered Cincinnati X dollars, Kentucky X dollars. He was promised by Kentucky. I don't know. We've been talking about $100,000, so let's go with $100,000. He's promised $100,000 to come to Kentucky, and if that doesn't happen, all of a sudden it wasn't what Cincinnati was offering because you're an underclassman. You're, whatever Cincinnati's offering, I don't know, but I can't imagine that Luke Fickell is a guy who is negotiating with players, right?
Right. We know better. Like Cincinnati has been very static about this is what we are. This is who we are. This is cost of attendance. They're now paying for good grades, which the NCAA has allowed. You get good grades, you get a check based on your, what your GPA is at. Like, I'm sure they're being very open and honest about this is what our guys are making in NIL. And this is where you would slot into that. And when you're at this level, you make this, and this level, you make this. And obviously, we're going to keep growing it and trying to, and increase what everybody's getting. But this is who we are. This is what we are.
But what if you manipulated a kid who was ready to commit somewhere else and told him, hey, we're going to drop you more money if you come here, but not until you come here. And then once they sign that letter of intent and they get the kid, and then they just decide because there's no contracts in place.
That's the thing.
Hey, I think about that money, we're going to get you that money, but that's over the course. That's over the course of 4 years. What do you mean? You thought that you were getting that money? You misunderstood. We're sorry. No. You totally misunderstood.
No, you misunderstood. But so basically, I think we're in agreement. There are two solutions here. One, the kids have to understand. If you're going to promise me something, I'm going to put a piece of paper in front of you, and we're going to agree to terms. And you're going to be held accountable for what you promised.
Or we'll see you in court.
Right, because now we have a contract.
Correct.
And they have agents. Like, this is
but that's
entirely possible.
To Late Kick's point is when you have parents negotiating as opposed to an actual agent negotiating.
Right. Or you let natural selection handle the process, right? And the kid goes into the locker room, doesn't get what he was promised. And now what happens?
Blow the whistle all over town.
Even before that, kids start talking. What were you promised? What were you promised? Well, then this kid finds out, they promised you 100,000. They only told me 25.
It's like in corporate America where you're not supposed to discuss your salaries with your coworkers. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. None of us do that.
Okay. Exactly. It's just another, like I said, it's something that has been coming up enough. I think it needs to be talked about because it's happening. It's very much happening. If it's being talked about at the level that I've heard it talked about, and then enough to show up on a show like Late Kick, which is one of the more popular college football shows on YouTube, Josh is having those same conversations. I guarantee you that. So what's the solution? I don't know if there's an easy solution. Again, I'm all for the kids getting money.
Yes.
And have no issue. Like, if you can outbid, you can outbid. I just have a problem with
put your money where your mouth is, right?
Right.
This is the exact way. Like, this is a prime example for that particular phrase. Like,
you don't get to say whatever the hell you want to win a recruiting battle and then not be held to that standard that you have set based on your words. Like, that's how recruiting should work. That's how NIL should work. You want to pay one kid more than any other? Like, that's fine. You better be ready to put your John Hancock on it, that when I get to your school, this is what I'm going to make. Don't be fake with it.
Otherwise, maybe that's what Ryan Day was talking about when he's talking about Ohio State needed what, 14 million or 13 million or whatever.
It is what he was talking about, because they need a set dollar amount that everybody on the roster is going to make this. And here is what everybody on our roster makes. And if you have the ability to go out and make more, good for you.
Gravy.
But this is the starting point for everybody. Everybody gets 100,000. Everybody gets 50,000, whatever your level is. And then above and beyond that, that's on you, your agent, your popularity, how well you play. But using it in recruiting is very dangerous because of what Josh just talked about. Boy, you better follow through with every word you said to every one of those kids in your recruiting class, because if not, your locker room is going to be a disaster in short order.
Shambles.
All right. I think that's a good show. Fun topic.
I got to get back to the hospital.
You get back to the hospital. You got hopefully come home tomorrow.
I think we're coming home tomorrow. Yeah.
All right. And then you'll be able to do like 5-minute shows.
Yeah. I'll be able to do whatever needs done, just in segments.
Very small increments. All right, brother. Good to see you. And we'll see you tomorrow night. I don't know what tomorrow night's going to look like. I'll be at the Peach Jam. I'll be in communication with Aaron and Brent on the BBP. We'll get one done. I just don't know when. He's Aaron Smith. I'm Chad Brendel. This is The Nightcap, brought to you by Galactic Fried Chicken, right here on BearcatJournal.com.
See ya!